Hi, I'm Debbie Harbeck, and I'm a certified life coach working with women in midlife and through the menopause transition. So each week, I'll be sharing the latest information, inspiration, and generate some momentum so you can move forward and feel more in control of your changing midlife body and your life. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited you're here today, as I always am. We're talking about something today that so many women in midlife struggle with, including myself. I have been there, which is putting everyone else's needs before your own. This might sound familiar because it's one of the most common issues. Actually, it may even be the most common issue I encounter in coaching women in midlife. So many of us, and I include me in here because I was there, we're conditioned to put others first and put off or completely ignore our own needs. So when I meet my clients, they tell me often that they want to lose weight, they want to exercise more, they want to eat better, but it's never really about those things. Those are just the things on the surface. What it's really about is, how do I make myself a priority so that I actually get these things done and take care of myself? So let's talk about this huge obstacle that blocks the way forward for so many of us, because I know that it seems that you're being so good when you put others first. It feels like you're being charitable and kind and caring, and it feels like you're being a great mom and daughter and partner and employee. And you are, but when you do the right thing, and I'm using air quotes here, when you do the right thing by always being available, by always saying yes, and by making sure everyone else is happy before you even think about yourself, the truth is you end up suffering. But there's an even harder truth here that I really want to get to in this podcast. And that's when you don't make yourself a priority. It's not just you that suffers. It affects everyone around you in ways you might not even be aware of. This is the hidden cost of putting others first. So on the podcast today, I'm going to talk about how this builds up inside you, how that can spill over into your relationships and you might not even be aware of it, and then how that can affect your physical and mental health and what you can do about it. So let's just dive in. Let's talk about this silent buildup of resentment. So as I mentioned before, when you say yes to things, you start off feeling pretty great about yourself. You feel like you're being a great mom, a great partner, a great friend, great coworker. You take care of everything and everyone, and people know you this way, right? But over time, something shifts. And this often happens to women when they hit midlife. Somewhere in your 40s or 50s, you begin to feel drained and unappreciated. And you say to yourself, but I'm doing so much. How come no one notices? Why don't I even just get a thank you? That's when resentment really starts to creep in. And then someone asks you for just one more thing and you feel like screaming, or maybe you just shut down. This resentment doesn't just stay inside you. As you can see, it leaks out in passive-aggressive comments, in sighs, in eye rolls, and just in a heaviness that tends to fill up the room. The irony is that the very people you're trying to help, they feel this energy. They might not know exactly what's wrong with you, but they can sense it, and it changes how they interact with you. So I admit, I have been this person so many times in my life, taking on all the responsibility at home, for example, when the kids were young, and then resenting my partner when he would go out with his friends. And then I'd play the martyr, wanting some respect for what I did, but not realizing I wasn't respecting myself and what I wanted. So of course, I was always disappointed when I didn't get that respect or that appreciation. And I remember when my mom used to do the same thing. She'd take on the responsibility and then would make me feel guilty. And that just made me angry. It made me not want to do the thing she was guilting me to do. And now I see how I just repeated this behavior for so long in my own life until I changed how I treated myself. And that I'll get to in a moment. But first, let's talk about the ripple effect when you're in this emotional state of resentment. So when you're holding on to resentment, meaning it's literally like poison inside you, you begin to affect your relationships. You might find yourself snapping at your kids for small things, or giving the silent treatment to your partner, or in your friendships, you might just start shutting down because you feel like you're always giving but never receiving. And here's the kicker. When you consistently put yourself last, you teach others to do the same thing to you. What I'm saying is you teach others how to treat you. Now, I don't know where I first heard this phrase, but when I did, it immediately and deeply impacted me. And it transformed things, not just for me, but for my clients as well when they learn about this. You teach others how to treat you. What that means is how you treat yourself is how you're demonstrating to others how they should treat you. So if you never set boundaries because you're always saying yes, people will assume you don't have any boundaries. If you never say no, people will always assume you'll say yes. Over time, this dynamic creates frustration, not just for you, but for them too. On your side, you feel overwhelmed, you feel underappreciated, undervalued. And then your family, friends, or your colleagues, they may feel confused or even guilty, like I did with my mom, but not know how to change things. So our relationships with others become strained. And that's kind of the opposite of what we wanted when we put our needs aside for those people in our lives, right? And let's not forget the third part to all this, which is the physical and emotional toll this takes on you. Ignoring your own needs doesn't just impact your mood, doesn't just make you bitter and angry. It takes a toll on your body too. You experience this as chronic stress, as lack of sleep, as emotional exhaustion. These things don't just go away, they build up. So when you don't take the time to do simple things like exercise, go for a walk, eat well, rest and recharge, your body will revolt. It will strike back. And maybe that will show up as extra weight or constant headaches or stronger hot flashes or even just a feeling of being off all the time. Or it might even progress to more serious things like burnout, like illness. And when these things happen to you, when your health is affected, it doesn't just affect you again. Your family, your work colleagues, your friends will all be impacted by you if you are not well. So what can you do? What can you start doing differently to shift this pattern? First of all, it's recognizing that taking care of you isn't selfish. And maybe you've heard these words before. You've heard taking care of myself isn't selfish, but I really want you to contemplate them because you are not selfish when you take care of yourself. That is not selfish. Would you think it's selfish if your daughter took care of herself? If your daughter went to the gym to get stronger and feel better about herself, would that be selfish? I don't think so. So you are not selfish when you keep that appointment for yourself to go to the gym, even though someone else says they need you to do something for them. That is not selfish. You are not selfish when you make food that feels good to you and your body, even if no one else at home likes that food. You are not selfish when you go to bed early or wake up early because that's what works best for you. You're not selfish when you say no to a glass of wine when it's offered to you. And when you do those things, it actually benefits you and everyone you're in contact with because you're feeling good. You're doing things that make you feel good and everyone feels it. Just like when you feel resentment inside, everyone will feel that. Well, if you feel good, everyone else around you will feel good. Don't you want that? I think we all want that. But I do know that rewiring yourself in this way, it does take time. Because there's another emotion that can come up, and that's guilt. And this is something, again, we work through in coaching because you're used to being there all the time. And now you'll have to say no sometimes, and that can make you feel guilty. And I know that feeling guilty feels hard. but it's a temporary guilt. And it's way better than the destruction that results from building up resentment over years when you consistently put everyone else ahead of yourself. So, how do you move forward from here? Well, my advice is always start small. Small steps, like, for example, set one boundary today. Like, say no to something you don't have time for, or carve out 30 minutes just for yourself. Actually put that in your calendar. Another thing you can do is check in with yourself throughout the day. How do you feel? What do you need? Maybe 3-4 times today, ask yourself those questions. Another thing you could do is communicate openly with someone in your life. Let them know what's going on and how maybe they can support you. And yes, this may be vulnerable, but asking for help can be the most powerful shift you ever make. Please know that the people who truly love you want you to be happy. I want you to be happy. And the only way to show up fully for them is to start showing up for yourself first. So, here's what I hope you take away from this episode today. You matter. Your needs, your well-being, your happiness, they matter. And when you take care of yourself, you bring a better you to everyone around you. And you also teach them that it's okay to take care of themselves as well, so that they can be the best version of themselves. And it's okay for them to learn how to do things without you. It empowers them and grows them in ways you never would have imagined. When I first started taking care of myself, when I went out for a long run or got to bed early and asked my partner for help, I was a much better mother to my children. I could be much more present. I was no longer bitter or resentful or playing the martyr. I even got more appreciation from my partner because he began to understand what I had been doing all that time. Everyone wins when you're happy and your needs are met. And midlife is the perfect time to start doing this. When you drop negative emotion like resentment, your perimenopause and menopause experience actually becomes easier because your symptoms will actually reduce. And of course, in coaching, I work on this with you. We learn to put ourselves first. And if that sounds like what you need, please reach out to me or book a free consult. The link is in the show notes. And before we go, I just want to know, what's one thing you're going to do for yourself today? Please let me know. You can DM me on Instagram or send me an email, whatever way you prefer to contact me. And I just want to thank you for being here today. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. Share it with someone else who needs to hear this message. And if you haven't already, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And in the meantime, keep moving forward, and bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Midlife Momentum Podcast. If you want to learn more about working with me, come visit me at debbieharbeckcoaching.com. That's Debbie, I-E, Harbeck with a C, coaching.com. See you next week.